Makeda, I've not started from the beginning, so this is going a little bit from here. She said, the veranda. My grandmother sat on the veranda in the evenings after all the chores were done to read the newspaper. People, mostly women, gathered there to discuss life. Life covered every conceivable topic: economic, local, political, social, and sexual. The high price of saltfish, the scarcity of flour, the nice piece of yellow yam bought at Coronation Market, Mr. Lamb, the shopkeeper who is taking liberty with Miss Inez, the fights women had with their menfolk, work, suspicions of Miss Iris and Miss Bunty carrying on something between them, the cost of school books. My grandmother usually had lots of advice to pass on to the women on the veranda, all grounded in the Bible. Granny believed in Jesus, in good and evil, and in repentance. She was also a practical and sociable woman. Her faith didn't interfere with her perception of what it meant to be a poor black woman. Neither did it interfere with our Friday night visits to my Aunt Marie's bar. I remember sitting outside on the piazza with my grandmother, 2 grandaunts, and 3 or 4 of their women friends. I liked their flashy smiles, and I was fascinated by their independence, ease, and their laughter. I loved their names: Cherry Rose, Blossom, Jonesy, Poinsettia, Ivory, Pearl, Iris, Bloom, Dahlia, Babe. Whenever the conversation came around to some big woman talk, who was sleeping with whom or whose daughter just got fallen, I was sent off to get a glass of water for an adult or a bottle of cola champagne. Every Friday night, I drank as much as half a dozen bottles of cola champagne. But I still managed to hear snippets of words, tail ends of conversations about women together. In Jamaica, the words used to describe many of these women would be Man Royal and or Sodomites, dread words, so dread that women dare not use these words to name themselves. They were names given to women by men to describe aspects of our lives that men neither understood nor approved. I heard sodomite whispered a lot during my primary school years, and tales of women secretly having sex, joining at the genitals, and being taken to the hospital to be cut apart were told in the schoolyard. Invariably, one of the women would die. Every 5 to 10 years, the same story would surface. At times, it would even be published in the newspaper. Such stories always generated much talking and speculation, from things like, "Boy, them can't get nasty stuff," to some wise old woman saying, "This can't happen. After all, 2 shotgun can't join," meaning identical objects cannot go into the other. The act of loving someone of the same sex was sinful, abnormal, something to hide. Even today, it isn't unusual or uncommon to be asked, "So how did 2 women do it? What would you use for a penis? Who is the man and who is the woman?" It's inconceivable that women can have intimate relationships that are whole, that are not lacking because of the absence of a man. It's assumed that women in such relationships must be imitating men. The word sodomite, of course, derives from the Old Testament. Its common use to describe lesbians or any strong, independent woman is peculiar to Jamaica, a culture historically and strongly grounded in the Bible. Although Christian values have dominated the world, their effect in slave colonies is particular. Our foreparents gained access to literacy through the Bible when they were indoctrinated by missionaries. It provided powerful and ancient stories of strength, endurance, and hope, which reflected their own fight against oppression. This book has been so powerful that it continues to bind our lives with its racism and misogyny. Thus, the importance the Bible plays in Afro-Caribbean culture must be recognized in order to understand the historical and political context for the invisibility of lesbians. The wrath of God, quote, rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah, end quote, Genesis 19:24. How could a Caribbean woman claim the name Sodomite? And when, Bible in hand, my grandmother responded to my love by sitting me down at the age of 27 to quote Genesis, it was within the context of this tradition, this politic. When she pointed out that this was a white people thing, or a thing only people with mixed blood was involved in, to explain or include my love with a woman of mixed blood, it was a strong denial of many ordinary black working class women she knew. It was finally through my conversations with my grandmother, my mother, and my mother's friend 5 years later that I began to realize the scope of this denial, which was intended to dissuade and protect me. She knew too well that any woman who took a woman lover was attempting to walk on fire, entering a no man's land. I began to see how commonplace the act of loving women really was, particularly in working class communities. And I realized, too, just how heavily shame and silence weighed down this act.